Thank you all for joining us this evening. It seems like so long since we have been able to gather together in person, but I am so grateful to see all of your familiar faces here tonight. And how appropriate that we are gathering virtually to celebrate the opening of 2 exhibitions that deal with CBA's international community. Out of Sight, Beyond Touch, and new book art from our 2019 artists in residence. One of the greatest strengths about this art form is its capacity to connect us, and I think that's very apparent tonight. The book offers us a multi-sensory experience that engages audiences beyond what is seen visually. When activated, the book allows a deeper sensory engagement, evoking a deeper perspective of the book's content simultaneously through sight, sound, touch, smell, and in some cases, even taste. Out of Sight, Beyond Touch, organized by Maryam Ghoreishi, prioritizes the significance of touch when interacting with the book. The act of, and now lack of touch, has become highly provocative recently in light of COVID-19, because we've all been limited in the ways that we can interact with each other. So this exhibition invites the audience to interact after sanitizing your hands, of course. And most importantly, it poses the idea that is central to the book arts field as a whole, which is to literally and figuratively feel something. So I invite each of you to make an appointment to visit these exhibitions in person, because we know that while digital interactions are a necessary supplement right now, nothing is better than the intimacy that the book is able to provide through touch. And I know that many of you, thanks to our local government, may have now made reservations to get your vaccines. So fingers crossed that that all goes smoothly and that we'll be seeing you in person soon. And if you are unable to attend in person, we have produced a really beautiful catalog for this exhibition that provides a haptic experience as well. I'm going to try to show this off a little bit. It's a little hard because the cover is black on black. It has this really amazing silky cover, and the cover itself is produced letterpress, and so it's all embossed. It's designed by Rambod Vala, and the catalog is 136 pages, and it has beautiful full color illustrations. Let's see if I can find. Let's see, I know these don't look full color, but they are, I promise. And also a few structural surprises for you, which you'll see a little bit later as we turn through the book. So tonight the book is available for $20, and I definitely recommend that you purchase a copy. I see that Devin has dropped the link into the chat, so if you are interested, please follow that link and make a purchase. The other thing that's very interesting about this catalog is that it's our first bilingual catalog. In order to better serve our international community at Center for Book Arts, we have been making an effort to produce catalogs both in English, but also in the native tongue of the artists that we're working with. And since tonight's main exhibition features primarily Iranian artists and is organized by an Iranian curator, this one is also in Farsi. So it opens from both directions. And just really beautiful. The design work is phenomenal here. So I don't know if you all can read Farsi, but it's really wonderful. We spent a lot of time editing both English and Farsi here for you. So here's the catalog. And we also have, if you show up in person, this beautiful brochure of all of our artists in residence work. This page here is for Jennifer, who's going to be speaking later tonight. So I am very excited also for you to see the wonderful range of works produced by our artists in residence. These residents hold a very special place in my heart because they were the first cohorts to start at CBA after I took my position as executive director. So Slavko, Delphine, Keith, Jennifer, Jiyun, Kathleen, Christina, Laura, Kevin. It was when they were all becoming a part of our community, and at the same time I was too. So it wasn't uncommon for me to see Laura in the morning when I came into the office, Slavko spending his lunch break. And in fact, I feel like I still see Slavko spending his lunch break at CBA, which I love. And I often see Keith working late in the evening, printing broadsides or working on a chapbook that he's publishing. I learned so much about all of your practices, and I'm so grateful to have you all in our CBA community. I would also like to thank our staff for their hard work, in particular, Jenna Hamed, who really made these exhibitions happen, Zoe Katz, who is an unbelievable assistant to her, and Carolina Luna. Our board of directors have been an unbelievable base of support for me and the staff, and the exhibition committee who selected this exhibition for the center. And on top of that, I'd like to thank all of our members and supporters internationally all over the world. These exhibitions would not be possible also without the support of New York State Council on the Arts, with the support of Andrew Cuomo and the New York State Legislature, and by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with City Council, and also funding in part from the National Endowment for the Arts. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to our guest curator, Maryam Ghoreishi, for her persistent flexibility, as Out of Sight Beyond Touch was originally scheduled for spring 2020 and is only opening now. So let me introduce Maryam. She's an absolutely phenomenal person, and she'll be taking over for me in just a moment. So born in Iran, Miriam moved to the US in 2014 with a BFA and MFA in painting to pursue a master's in the arts from NYU. Since then, she has organized curatorial programs with the Asia Contemporary Art Week and field meeting Take 6 on thinking collections in Dubai. Miriam Guereshi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Corina, for this great introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before I start a brief tour to the show, I would like to thank everyone at the center who made this exhibition happen after almost a year's delay, as Corina said. And I'd like to especially thank Jenna and Corina for being so flexible and supportive this last year. So, well, I think that since last year, all of us across the world are experiencing the lack of the sense of touch and physical contact in our social life. So it is important and relevant to contemplate about this topic. No matter where we live, this outbreak has made us spend more time on monitors, stare at the screens, and reduce our social interactions to virtual gatherings, online events, video calls, and so on, which is inevitable, but I think it's worth being aware of the domination of visuality. And by the way, this is not a new concern. If we look back, we realize that highlighting the sense of sight had been a concern for many in various fields of art, psychology, philosophy, and cognitive science for years. I want to quote from Mark Patterson here, a researcher in haptic technology, from his book, The Sense of Touch in 2007, quote, within an academic climate that celebrates visual cultures and the popular media's infatuation with visuality, touch remains largely neglected, forgotten. So I could say that this outbreak has reminded us of this important matter. But the idea of out of sight beyond touch, which actually formed in March 2019 before this pandemic, and it revolves around the significant role that the sense of touch plays in the process of perception and our understanding of our bodies, objects, and our surroundings. In other words, in this exhibition, I aim to remind the audience of this matter through the way these specific artworks together create a unique perceptual experience. And more importantly, the presentation of the works is displayed in a way that engages both senses as two closely related and essential elements of perception. And I believe this is something that we can't experience on screens because everything is reduced to the images. So I would encourage everyone in New York City to visit the center and have this experience in person. So to start, I would like to start, yes, with Amina Ahmad embossed books on Fairlinks, which are placed in these cases, as you see, covered with velvets, and visitors could put their hands in, and their perception forms from their tactile experience with these books, reading through the sense of touch. There are also some papers next to these cases, and visitors are encouraged to respond through writing or drawing, as Amina says, to translate this reading of text into their own language. And on March 25th, through an online collective collaboration and a conversation, Amina will make a handmade book out of these responses and also the participants' responses on Zoom. And I would encourage everyone who are interested in this topic to join Amina for this amazing workshop. So let's move to the next work, which is one of Bahman Mohammadi's works, this series actually. This is called Protozoan Self-Portrait, 2011 to 2020. And in this series, Bahman refers to the role of accidents in the evolutionary path, which indicates that there is a minuscule evolutionary gap between the Homo sapiens and a small insect or even a protozoan. And this reference is embodied in the making process, during which these painted wood blocks have been exposed to water, sunlight, and different temperatures from 8 to 10 years. For Bahman, book is not a medium, rather a concept that implies the book as scientific evidence. Okay, now let's go and see one of Shirin Salehi's artworks. In the corner, it called Poems of Solitude, Columbia University. Shirin uses writing and language in her works, especially works featured in this exhibition, Out of Sight, Beyond Touch. But at the same time, she challenges the act of reading. For example, in this work, as you see, by using white ink on this Japanese paper, and also by rolling these sheets, which form a series of scrolls. The presence of secrecy and the gesture of concealment is very significant to Shirin's work. And she will delve into this concept in the online workshop that she will have at the center. And the last work that I'd like to spotlight is one of Masume Mohtadi's origami books. It's called Blindness. So Masume uses word literature as her primary source to create these origami books. In this case, Blindness, a novel by Jose Saramago. But rather than utilizing the conventional language, she employs origami as an independent system. So in origamis, the folds of a paper create full origami structures. It originates from a square, and with each fold, a new object is created. But here, instead of folding, she cuts the papers. So by flipping the pages, as you can see, a new object is created, which could be known or unknown shapes. And this change from one page to another. And next to each of these origami, there is another. So she got these books, the literature, both in Farsi and English. She cut the papers and she interweaved them together. So again, it's kind of challenging the act of reading and the conventional language. So as you can see, each artist in this show delves into like different subject matter, but referring to the book is the common thread among these works, which could be experienced through the sense of sight and touch alone or together. Lastly, Corina kindly gave us a quick introduction to the catalog, but I would like to go with more details. So as you see, we have this great embossed works on the cover. And the catalog contains the curatorial note, images of the works, bios and statements of all four artists, and also an interview that I had with Mark Patterson, a researcher on haptic technology, about the significance of the sense of touch in the age of technology, and also about the experience of online exhibitions, something that we are experiencing now, and technologies that aims to stimulate the sense of touch. What do we miss when we use these technologies, or what do we gain? As you see, and as Corina mentioned, this is a bilingual catalog in Farsi and English, and you can order it from the website. If you would like to read more about this topic and the interview and see the images of the works, this is the bio and statements in Farsi, and the other side we have it. So the design of this book is part of the project. That I would like to thank the former studio, Rambodwala, for designing this amazing book. Okay, once again, thank you all for joining us. I would like to pass this to Keith Graham, who is one of the 2019 exhibition residents at the center.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the intro, Corina. It's true, I am a night owl. So I wanted to introduce myself briefly. I came into the residency with a background primarily in printmaking. I also do a lot of drawings and work in sketchbooks. And I had a few goals for the residency, which included connecting to the larger book arts community, which has been fantastic. Expanding my skill set and doing some projects with greater complexity. The solution that I found for that was to dive more deeply into letterpress, which has been really fun, but also exacting and rigorous. So I've really had kind of a self-directed crash course in typography, and really done a lot of thinking about graphic design. So here we're looking at print by Gina Postal. Cassandra takes her job seriously. This references a sort of American colonial intervention into the Philippines, which is where Gina has family history. It takes a bit of effort to read this one. If we look over to the right, you can see the first broadside I produced for the center. This is Poem to be Read from Right to Left by Marwa Halal. And this actually is sort of linguistic play with the way Arabic is read, reversing the direction of reading, which kind of is reflected in the printing process where the relief matrix is reversed. So there was a lot of thinking forwards and backwards in producing that. And if we look below this one, there's another broadside, this by Andrea Abikaram, which uses the same structure where we read from right to left. These are a lot of fun to produce. Moving to the left, you can see a page from the chapbook, The Other World by Miriam Greenberg. This is one of 4 sides, which are folded up and enclosed in a trifold cover. It's a very complex and fragmentary collection of poems, which in part deals with the recent fires in California, but is really, I would say, thematically sprawling, and was an interesting challenge to try to interact with visually. It ended up being separated into 4 pages, each of which references an element. Then if we look at the browse set on the upper left, this is the most recent one that I've printed, Sky by Leila Ortiz, which was a very personal poem in which she references her childhood memory and sort of world sensations and innocence. There's some kind of subtle color there, which may be hard to see on screen. If we look down in the case, there are 3 different projects here. And by the way, everything you're seeing is in some sense collaborative, either working with another visual artist or with a poet and their text. This upper piece with the world we live in text is a project entitled Dimness, which I've been working on for some time with an artist based in Virginia, teaches at the University of Virginia, named Dean Das. He made all the paper, and we've been mailing this back and forth to each other between New York and Virginia, printing layers of texture and image and some text. And it's I would say something that you have to see in person to appreciate its visual qualities. He's done some amazing things with poured pigments. In the bottom left, you can see a risograph printed zine with drawings by Catalina Chervin, which I designed and printed with her assistants. These are drawings she made in response to life under military dictatorship in Argentina. Catalina's an amazing draftswoman who comes up to New York every year from Buenos Aires to work with different printers, primarily at the Blackburn printmaking workshop, but hopefully now that there's a relationship with the Center for Book Arts, she will be back. And then looking on the lower right, you can see the cover for The Other World. And this was the winner of the 2019 Poetry Chapbook competition. So Miriam came out from the Bay Area fall of last year for the reading. So it's very exciting to see everything up after long delays, and I hope you all will get the chance to come in. I'd like to pass it on to Slavko now.
Can you hear me? Yes or no? All right, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Slavko Đurić, and I'm one of the residents at the Center for Book Arts from 2019. I didn't expect tonight to go this way, but I guess that's our life now, and I was so much looking forward to this moment, sharing my art with you guys. So what we're seeing on the camera is actually one of my projects that I did in 2019, and it's called Interdependence. And right, this is the project that I've been envisioning for a very long time. It's also like presents many aspects or many ideas that that I already experienced with other book projects and in my printmaking experience. These books are actually, as you can see, double bounded and or double bound, and pages are facing down, and they are only visible in the situation when there is a book next to it, juxtaposed to it. So the content of the book becomes visible only in the presence of the other books. I have produced these books in an edition of 12. And in this case, we are looking into the 3 books, and here between the books, you can see these portraits trying to recreate themselves. So I'm trying to emphasize the connectivity and networking that we so depend on, even if we trying to deny it, but we are all in together, and we need to make it work. And I hope this project that was envisioned as an installation of books helps bring us closer together. Here we are looking at the back cover of the book, which contains Saharan desert, and also holds the number of the edition of the books. And I think that my friend who brought me a Saharan desert at my wish helped me a lot, because kind of like the Saharan desert holds, and the desert itself holds the idea of being isolated, and emphasizes like the contrast to it, and the books being juxtaposed to each other and making it work and making it visible. Whole idea was inspired by the Serbian poet Branko Milković, and here in the center of the installation, you're seeing the recreation in vinyl of the quote that I used inside the book, which in Serbian reads as "Otvori kamen što prečeta zvezde svojoj tami." And in my translation of that quote, it means open the stone that hasn't mentioned the stars to its own darkness. And I felt that quote was leading me through this project and helping me understand how to build this idea of books being together and seeing together, and that's all pretty much. So thank you for attending this meeting tonight, and I'm going to pass the mic to Christina Martinelli now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. I am zooming from my phone. My internet went out. During my time at Center for Book Arts, I really took advantage of the opportunity to take lots of classes. I've come from a background where I make artist books, usually made up of my drawings, which tend to be geometric, abstract, and have sort of hidden meanings or coded language within them. And while taking classes, I learned how to make book covers, and I became really interested in covering a book board and book cloth and seeing how I could make new structures with it. And the wall piece is my first experiment in that it's made up of each color is a different piece of book board that I cut and individually covered and assembled to make that image. And I liked playing with the idea that you could use the materials of a book cover to make a 2D image, kind of like when you look at a book cover and it transports you to another world and you can kind of imagine what might be in the book. From there, I spent a lot of time working on the sculpture that you see here, which is a lectern. So in theory, you could place a book on top and you could read from it or give a speech. And each part, it is entirely made up of bookboard covered in book cloth, and the pieces slot together. We had one flat file drawer to store our materials during our year. And so I made this so that every piece could come apart and fit perfectly in my one flat file drawer. I liked the idea. I graduated with a degree in sculpture, and it's always hard to make sculpture in New York City. And I liked playing with this idea of making, how do you make sculptures, larger sculptures, when you have such limited space? And so I combined my thoughts about sculpture and wanting to explore that further with this conceptual idea of what if the thing to present a book were made out of the materials of a book. And I was able to test its transportability too. I exhibited this at an artist bookstore called Bladder in Copenhagen, and I carried it with me on the airplane, flat packed. But yeah, I want to continue to explore this further. And I learned all of this at Center for Book Arts. So with that, I will pass it on to Jian. Thank you so much.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Jian Hong. I am one of the 2019 Workspace residents at Center for Book Arts. So I started my residency there, hoping to make a pop-up book by the end of my time there. And so on the wall, 2 posters they were my first idea, more traditional, more abstract looking, but I developed my idea further. So the final look is the book Miscellanea that you will see there. So I was always fascinated by pop-up books and pop-up cards. When I was 8, my family had a trip to America, and when we went to a souvenir store, and my sister got a Wizard of Oz pop-up card. And when we came back to Korea, my sister found out that I always snuck into her room and took out the card from her drawer and just stared at it for a long time every day. So she gave me the card, and that's my first memory of pop-up card. Just the fact that 3D objects appears in a second when you open a book or a card still amazes me. So I wanted to make a pop-up book for adults, or just for everyone, that visually excites you and something that you can stare at it pleasantly. And I decided to make a 3D still life pop-up book because I do love still life paintings. I just love how still life paintings contains, objects of very specific time, but at the same time, timeless elements like flowers or fruits. And I appreciate still life paintings because it makes me focus on and adore little things. Especially during pandemic, I was stuck at my small apartment, but then my interest, my ability to just on looking and observing and appreciating little things somehow broadened my view on everything, like bigger than ever, even in a very limited physical space. So this book Miscellanea, as its meaning, it contains lots of spaces, lots of times, objects, and memories, all mixed together, just like how images in my head always disassemble and mix together. So in my head, I always travel through time and spaces of my past just to find something that I cannot explain exactly what it is. And that's why my work is always about longing and nostalgia. So while making this book, I was able to, find a new way, a more intimate way to experience my own work. Because I normally do larger scale 3D photo collage on the wall. So it was very easy to find a connection between my photo installation and this pop-up book, because it's like miniature version of my work. So yeah, I had a lot of fun making it. It was a good time for me. So that's it for me. So I'll pass it on to Laura. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Nova, also a 2019 resident, and I have, I guess, 2 books or boxes that I made when I first came to the Center for Book Arts. I had come off of a really large-scale public performance project, and in that center photograph, you can see I had produced this parade called the Lower Eastside Citizens Parade, and it was made out of boxes, and those floats are made out of boxes that are labeled with words as the Lower East Side citizens predominantly are immigrants and migrants, and I asked all my neighbors, what would you take with you if you had to leave? And so we all started to write words on these boxes. So I came to the Center for Book Arts, never really had known much about book arts, but realized that I had been making books all along. So from this experience, I decided to sort of commemorate the parade into a box, a kit in a sense. And so you can see on the table this book or box, and it has the costume that all the participants wore, and then there's a suite of 13 photographs that I took during the event, and we put up 9 of them on the wall, and I was going to show how to open up the box with the fancy, should I still do that? I guess so, why not? Let's see here, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the box that you saw on the table, and it has these Velcro enclosures. I really wanted to keep the cardboard look of this because I wanted to feel like the objects that we carried in the parade, and we labeled it with words. It also says Lower East Side Citizens Parade on the binding, and then you can open up the box, and then this pulls, and you can take out your costume to be an activist wherever you are, and these were the images that you saw. Well, 9 of them that you saw on the wall. So for you. And the other set of boxes that are there, while I was in residence at the Center for Book Arts, I also was the public artist in residence with the Department for the Aging. It's a civic artist residency that the Department of Cultural Affairs leads, and I was really struck by boxes again as I volunteered to help with the Meals on Wheels program, and so I was also wanting to I was thinking about all the isolated folks that were getting these meals, and the delivery was really their only contact. This is before COVID. All of this was before COVID. And so I wanted to deliver stories and boxes to the elderly. So I made these boxes, which you can see they're different meals of actual Meals on Wheels. And then on one side is the meal, and then on the other side is a postcard, so that you can write when you receive one of these boxes, you can write to the elderly and isolated folks. And there was also a code to a story, an audio story. So I put these into a delivery wheel thing, just like they do for Meals on Wheels, and I distributed them on 14th Street as part of, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, as part of the, there's a performance festival called Art in Odd Places. So you can see in the installation, I put both books on these carts, because it was about a way to like distribute and give away these boxes to the public, story boxes, I guess you can call them. So I guess now I'm a book artist, and very, very happy to be part of the CBA community, and really grateful for everything that I learned, and some wonderful teachers and mentors there. I'm really, really excited to continue to be part of it. And I'd like to pass it on to Delphine Fawundu.
Oh, can you, oh, all right, here I am. Okay, hi, my name is Delphine Fawundu, and I must say that my 2019 residency at the Center for Book Arts was definitely one of the highlights of 2019 for me. My goal was to translate my current practice, which is photo-based, and really working in in a sort of multimedia way, where I like to collage. And I'm really heavily influenced by my grandmother's trade, which was, she made handmade batiks in West Africa, in Sierra Leone. And she did that to support her family, to send her children to university. And for me, who was born in America, first generation, my relation to her was really through these fabrics. So this is something that I brought into my practice, where I print on fabric. So here's a collage printed on cotton fabric. And so for me, I'm thinking about this collaging almost in the same way as batiking, like where you're taking these different elements and patterns and putting them together to make a new language. But here I am using photos from different parts of my world travels. So what I wanted to do is think about like location, think about diasporas, think about like the way that our identities are constructed of all of these different parts to make some, or ideas in order to make one whole. And so that's pretty much what my work has been. But what I wanted to do at the Center for Book Arts was to make books. I'm obsessed with books, and the idea of making a book with my hand was just so exciting for me. So I took many, many classes at the Center for Book Arts. I really fell in love with the idea of hand stitching books, hand binding books, because it reminds me again of these textiles and piecing things together. So here, this series of books is called Meet Me in Another World Again, which is really based on the idea of these collective memories. They're comprised of pieces of life around the world. Like I've been to many, every time I go to a different country or a different place, or even when I'm walking around New York City, I consider myself photographing or relating to or documenting the spirit of the world, right? And so through these different ideas and locations, I'm piecing them together to make this new world. And I like the idea of world making when you think about what is it that we could do new? How could we take our previous knowledge and make something new out of it? Which I feel like we're in a point where we really need to be thinking about creating this world that we want to be in. So some of the places that these pieces come from, and the thing that's beautiful is that do you know where everything is? Like, do we know localities, you know, when they're right next to each other? They could be completely different places from different parts of the world. They're right next to each other, but look like they're from the same location, which is quite exciting for me in terms of this idea of new world making. But yeah, some of the places from Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, Germany, Argentina. It's just like an endless amount of different places that I've been through. And I'm just really in love with the way that the earth moves. I also think about the idea of what is important about our earth, and like this idea of climate change, and how we need to be just the earth also as a being that should be respected just as, you know, we respect ourselves. So here are the books. I also think I work in video, and this way of piecing worlds together and making the book, these books also remind me of the movement. Like, so if you when you enter, you actually enter into a new space, and it's almost like if you're moving, the photographs are allowing you to move, you know, across this book and experience a whole different space and time. I use hair in the works often. When I think about hair, I think about the DNA. I think about memory. And again, like this collective memory. Hair is so important in so many different cultures. And so all of these books are binded with hair as well. Yeah. So yeah, so there are 4 books. And like I said, each one takes you on a different journey. And you could look at them in either direction. Like if you turn them over, they all have some element of the earth on the back cover as well. So you might see air, you'll see water, you know, just to give it that feeling of earth and the energy of, you know, what we are in this existence. And so that's me. And thank you so much to the family at the Center for Book Arts. I'm so happy to be a part of this family. It really feels like one. And you know, this COVID-19 actually tore us away from the family, but I'm so happy to see us connected in this way and in this space, and to be a part of this beautiful exhibition. So I will pass the mic over to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to talk and show my work. I focused most of the time during my residency in the print shop, particularly letterpress. I made a series of prints that ended up being a portfolio of prints. So it was edition of 35. It has a soft cover folio. So I can sort of talk about, yeah, here's the folio. So they all sort of fit, and you can leaf through them if you come into the center and sort of see them. But so these prints all focus on sort of language play and concrete poetry. So the arrangement of the text on the page enhances the meaning of the work. So this is a good one. I see you. So it's actually the letter I, and then the letter C, and then the letter U, but formed into the letters and these words that are, you know, visually similar, or conceptually similar. But and here's like alliteration, a touch of this, a trace of that. Some of the ones on the wall I could talk about too. Like for example, there's the no and yes. So again, it's a sort of a contradiction. The yes, the no is actually made out of the word yes, repeated over and over, and vice versa. The word yes is the letters no. So that's sort of back and forth, commanding, agreement. The one next to it is the phrase steadily losing your train of thought. And so the idea of loss, with each descending line of the same text, a single letter is, you know, missing until we're left with nothing. And then another one I wanted to highlight was we and me. It sort of falls in the one on the left, all the way to the left. So that one is about like the individual to the collective. So it's comprised of you and me. So this like micro read, but then when you back up, it's a read of the opposite of that. So towards the end of my residency, well, I found out I was pregnant, so I was sort of wrapping my mind around the idea of being homebound, and my residency was coming to an end. So I started to shift to these smaller books, more manageable books that were produced hand stamped, so something I could do at home with my growing family. Maybe we'll talk about the blue one. It was the first one I made. It's called Failed High Fives. So I cut out these individual foam stamps essentially, and so it's all about the gesture of a high five, the sort of congratulatory gest, like couple interaction, but they never actually meet. They sort of fumble through each attempt to connect. So I think my work does have this kind of humor to it, this sort of punny feel, but it also has like sentiment and some irony in it. So those are all hand stamped and hand bound. Everything's about an edition of somewhere around 30, including the letterpress book. Words on Play is the title of that book. Maybe we could talk about, that No book, No, Nope, No, Not, Nope, Never, Nothing. So I was thinking a lot about public signs, which are in general and sort of a instruction, a negative, like don't do this, you're not allowed to do this. So instead I changed the language of that to sort of some sort of phrase with a negative connotation, but in a more humorous tone, and then printed these different graphic design signs. So yeah, these are all hand stamped. Maybe we could talk about one more. Maybe the Here book, the yellow one. So this is called Right About Here. This book was focusing on the act of reading. So the idea that the reader is given instructions. The word here is repeated on every page in some sort of fashion. So loosely hold here, turn here. So it's giving it's sort of the act of moving through a book, the page that says focus intently here, but yet it's multiple focus points. So some contradictions too. So you pause here with a blank page, sort of a calm moment in the book. So yeah, there we are. I don't want to take up anybody else's time, but yeah, so these are all hand bound, and thank you for letting me speak about my work and for the amazing opportunity to be a resident. And I'll turn this back over to Center for Book Arts.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you to all the other residents who spoke tonight, as well as Miriam. And a special thank you to Jenna, who's been handling the camera all night. So if you didn't get seasick, you can express your gratitude to her. And thank you to everyone who came tonight. It's been a lot of work, and both of these exhibitions have been a very long time coming, and it really means a lot to me and the staff and to all the artists in the exhibitions that you all came here to learn a little bit more about the book arts. So if you haven't had a chance yet to check out any of those links, please do so. I'm going to ask my team to send out an email to everyone who is in attendance tonight, sharing those links with you so you can learn more about our artists in residence, more about the program. If you're interested in any of the works that you saw today, there will be links to some of those on our web shop, but also you know, for works by individual artists like Slavko Jurek or any of the other artworks in the exhibitions, also feel free to reach out to me directly at Karina@centerforbookarts.org. We'd love to support the artists in any way possible, and by purchasing their works, it not only supports them, but it also supports the Center for Book Arts. So we have a few programs coming up soon. We have a talk with Miriam Guereshi. We have 2 artist talks with our artists in residence, and you can find out information about those online on our new website. If you haven't had a chance to look around, please feel free to browse. We have a really great resources section and a really wonderful area that is showcasing our artist members. So take a look at that. Thank you, Devin. And special thanks to Devin for holding everything together technically. So with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and we hope to see you in person soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and good night.
Good night.